all across North America now. This coming weekend, this is something you got to factor in, that daylight savings time ending. Daylight saving time ending. It's not daylight savings time. It's daylight saving. Just want to make that point. And this is going to be, I think, a situation, a lot of people are saying, okay, why are we still doing this in the first place? Why are we turning the clock back? It has been done for years and years. A lot of speculation as to why it has been done. It goes all the way from maybe the fact that it's related to agriculture, to give the farmers more time, back at the turn of the last century, to be able to get more of the crop in, more harvest in. Nope, nothing to do with that at all. But it does have a lot to do with what's going to be going on with your health. And it's almost that time to set those clocks to fall back. The end of daylight saving time around the corner. The switch to standard time is going to be here, 2 a.m. on Sunday, wherever you are listening to this across North America. And that means more lights in the morning, more darkness arriving earlier, and most importantly for some of us, 1 hour of sleep. But that might not really be the best scenario. Dr. Fahmi Farah is on board with us, one of the best cardiologists in North America, to talk about this. And, Dr. O, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Hey, always great to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Why are we doing this with the turn back in the clocks, and what does it do to the body? Do you see a lot of patients maybe coming in and saying, man, that was brutal, turning that clock back? Welcome back.
Yeah, that's a million-dollar question here. Why do we do this? But as far as health goes, to answer your question in a very direct manner, do we see a lot of patients ending up in the hospital as a result of this? No, we don't, because that would be more of an acute change. What brings patients to the hospital would be having an acute event like a heart attack or a heart failure or stroke, something like that. But overall, does it have or can it have an impact on your overall cardiovascular health? Yes, it can. And so I would like to discuss that with you.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go into that. So, in other words, does the move to daylight saving time affect the, what do they call it, the circadian rhythm of an individual?
Yes, it is. It's a circadian rhythm, and it's a very important thing for our health, especially for our sleep. So circadian rhythm is like a built-in clock system within our body, so to speak. It determines what time we're going to fall asleep and when we're going to wake up. It also determines the quality and the duration of our sleep, and that's what can get affected with changes in time, like daylight saving time, for example. And, right now, as you mentioned, we're ending that, and so we're going to get an hour of extra sleep. But it doesn't matter if you're losing the sleep or gaining the sleep. It really is about that time frame. Like, you're still having to make that 1 hour adjustment. And for many people, that can be a pretty bad impact for their circadian rhythm, especially those who have pre-existing sleep disorders.
And some of that would probably be a lot more complicated, right? If somebody's got maybe an underlying condition like diabetes, for example, would that have an effect on that to some extent?
It can, absolutely. And for patients who have to make adjustments to that, sleep, that 1 hour of sleep, we're literally talking about just 1 hour. So in the big scheme of things, it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it can be for some people. Like you mentioned, a specific group of patients like diabetics, they take their medications at a certain time. Some of them are insulin dependent, and they would have to make those adjustments. So it's just something that is an extra step that they have to take. And is it really necessary for them to have to take that? That's the question. And the other thing is, like here in the fall season, it's true we are gaining an hour of sleep, but still the impact of it is not small, because now we're going to have less it's going to get dark faster, right? And a lot of people, like in the East Coast and the West Coast, like Seattle, for example, they're going to have the impact even worse than us in Texas, because they're going to get even less of that sunlight, and it can have an impact on mental health. Like, a lot of people get depressed during winter season, and even certain sectors, like healthcare sector, for example, like we are known to go to work early and leave late. So a lot of times during winter time, we don't even get to see the sunlight, and that can cause a lot of depression and have an overall impact on your mental health. And mental health can have a huge impact on your physical health and cardiovascular health. So it's like a trickling effect.
Okay, and go into that. When you mentioned the kind of that trickle-down effect, if you will, going from, say, the mental health side into the cardiovascular or the cardiology side of that, how does the heart react to all of that, with all that going on?
It has a huge impact on the heart. Just to address the behavioral side of things, when people get depressed, they lose their motivation to do the day-to-day things. And on top of that, when you have to motivate yourself to exercise, to eat healthy, that goes away. And so you're less inclined to eat healthy, less inclined to put in that extra step, to go to the gym and work out. So right away, you're losing two of your biggest healthy behaviors. Additionally, when people are depressed or have mental health issues, they're less inclined or more inclined to engage in unhealthy behavior, like their sleep pattern that can be affected a lot. Like they might get less sleep, or some people that might get more sleep. And then engaging in risky behaviors like smoking or drinking more alcohol, all of those can have a detrimental impact together on your heart.
In mentioning all these things together there, that this is why so many of the drivers that are going to be listening out there, when they hit that 2 a.m. mark on Sunday morning early, this is something they need to factor in, because we've got drivers that are all over North America 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So do you have any recommendation as far as what they maybe need to do, maybe to get ready for this, maybe start preparing maybe a few days earlier? Would that maybe help cut down on, say, any medical issues that might be developing?
That's correct. You actually said it correctly, and that's what I tell all my patients is we know exactly when the time change is going to happen. So I usually advise my patients to start making like a 10 to 15-minute change 1 week before that time change happens, so that it doesn't throw off your circadian rhythm. So by the time that 1 hour change happens, your circadian rhythm is already trained, and so you're not going to feel the impact of it, and so you should not have any sleep disturbance as a result of that.
Okay, and important to stick to the schedule, correct on that, doctor? In other words, be maybe consistent with the eating, maybe social activity, bedtime, and things like that. And I would imagine that if you expose yourself to the bright light in the morning, would that help you adjust overall to what's going on, and maybe help improve the overall cardiovascular health or system?
It does, and it can, yes. There's something called light therapy that we often recommend to our patients who have depression or, they don't like being in the dark or the long duration of dark times during winter time. Light therapy is known to help with mental health and, as a result, your overall physical health. So, yes, we do say, expose yourself to bright light during daytime and just create that environment for yourself, regardless of what's happening outside, whether it's dark outside or light outside. Just do whatever it takes to give yourself that consistency.
It's amazing that when you go to social media, or if you type in the time change into Google, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that a lot of people are not in favor of it. They want to see Congress do away with this, and I know it's been stuck in the House of Representatives for a long time. The Senate wants to move on with this and then get it on to the president's desk, but a political talk aside there, bottom line, folks really do need to be aware of what's going on, because you mentioned the circadian disruption, and a lot of people are thinking, well, it's just the way it is. I'll just try to catch up later and just not worry about it. Do a lot of companies maybe take this into consideration, that the time change could have a direct impact on employees' health overall? What's your thoughts on that as far as overall?
I haven't really heard a lot from industry side of things, but I know that from a health side of things, that is part of the conversation. Yes, it is. As we've, had studies done on this, and that have proven that, yes, it can have an impact on your overall health. And even from an employment standpoint, the same study actually showed that reduction of productivity shortly after the time change happens, just because everybody's trying to get adjusted. And even though it's a very minor change, even though we're really talking about just 1 hour, that disruption and just having to adjust everybody's schedule, it does provoke anxiety in many people. It's like you're having to adjust your whole life for 1 hour twice a year. So.
and when you mention the anxiety, when the anxiety factor kicks in, that's another element, right, that really can maybe create some issues for the heart overall if somebody's anxious or experiencing anxiety. What are your thoughts on that?
It does. It's very interesting how something so incredibly small as 1 hour and the impact it can happen. The study showed that, the anxiety factor definitely goes up. Some people lose sleep when whatever it is because of that 1 hour. And road accidents, like car accidents, go up shortly after. And work productivity goes down during that week. It's very interesting how big of an impact this 1 hour can actually have.
How do medical professionals deal with this? A lot of the folks that are going to be working in the medical field will be up at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning local time. Do a lot of folks on the medical side say, well, that's just the way it is? But do they kind of mentally psych themselves up for what's going on? I mean, they're right in the field. They're going to know what's going on with the body, aren't they?
Yes, the medical field is probably the best one to choose as far as the impact of it, I think, because we're just so overworked. And, as you mentioned, our work schedule, especially for physicians, is so chaotic as it is. There are surgeons and, cardiologists who have to be up all night. Sometimes we have to be up at the hospital at odd hours of the night. And so we do feel the impact quite a bit. That 1 hour is not little for us.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's just kind of getting it on that radar. I think there's 2 states that don't observe it. I think it's Arizona, and I think a portion of Indiana. I think one half of Indiana does observe the time change, and the other part of Indiana says, nope, ain't going to do that. Time change coming up. Daylight saving time is going to be kicking into gear coming up Sunday morning. Oh, man. 2 a.m. And I know many of you have gone through this before, having been out there on the road for many, many years. But think of it in terms of, just getting ready for it. The time change has, according to many studies, has shown it can really be a major problem for some that could be experiencing, say, cardiovascular or heart-related issues. And we're talking about that very subject matter right now. With my guest on the program, one of the best cardiologists in North America, Dr. Fahmi Farah, who is on with us. Doctor, thank you very much. I do want to get the website out where folks can find you up on the web and read up. Where can I go? Where can I reach you?
Oh, absolutely. They can find me at drfahmifarah.com. They'll have a lot of information. I just want to say my latest podcast is out. It's called Queen of Hearts Podcast on YouTube channel. It'll have a lot of health information completely free to the public.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us on the program to talk about this. And I'm looking at an article that it's called About Michigan Medicine. And this article, I'll read some of the lines verbatim. It says that why daylight saving time could increase the heart attack risk, the number of heart attacks rise the Monday after a time change, according to the Michigan Medicine study. Interrupted sleep may be the culprit. And I'm reading a little bit further down, and it indicates that heart attacks occur often on Monday mornings. And they mentioned in the article about, this particular Monday coming up, the risk may be further elevated. But I did not know that. Heart attacks often occur most on a Monday morning. Why is that? People just don't want to go to work? Stressed out? What do they do?
I think it's multifactorial, but yes, stress is probably a huge part of it. A lot of times it's also because during the weekend, people tend to delay things. A lot of times they don't realize that they're out of medications until like Friday evening when all the offices are closed. And they'll just wait until the weekend is done. And by that time, sometimes it's too late. They'll have a heart attack. So It's more than one reason. I think it's stress. I think it's not, like to some degree noncompliance because they'll just run out of their really much needed medications, and waiting it out can cause detrimental impact on their health.
Doctor, do you foresee maybe more and more companies going to like a 4-day work week in order to, obviously promote, employee morale, increase productivity, but is there maybe an underlying reason as well about medical or maybe cardio health as well? Do you think we'll see more of a trend towards a 4-day work week?
I hope so. I'm a big proponent of that, and I actually follow that model myself. I am the CEO and president of Bentley Heart, and in my organization, I have made Fridays a half-day work day, and it's a very easy day. It's a day when my employees, my staff, they use that time to catch up. And it's profound, the impact it has, because you're absolutely right. It increases the morale. It gives everybody the motivation to work harder the remainder of the time, and productivity, the efficiency of everything is just increased. And so, yes, I'm a big proponent of that, and I do think it's necessary because it'll just allow people to be more motivated to take care of themselves. That work-life balance is so important.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And probably, being the CEO, that you're probably seeing health-related costs go down. Maybe that if somebody working for you has got to go to the hospital, maybe that being of a really good frame of mind, that it shortens up the hospital stay, the time in the hospital. In other words, in and out, so to speak, right? Does that help there?
It does. It does. It's remarkable the change I've seen since I've made the decision to do this over the course of the last 3 years. It's been outstanding. I wish every organization would follow this model because you will see a positive impact on all levels. When it comes to productivity, it actually increases.
All right, Doctor, let me ask you this. We've got about 3 minutes left. Now, before we got to wrap it up, many of the drivers that are listening to you across North America, they're going to be going into the colder weather months, higher elevation up into the, say, the Sierras, or they're going to go over Snoqualmie Pass, notorious for blizzards and whiteout conditions. What would you recommend to them going into those kind of conditions about, say, shoveling snow or, things like keeping warm? Things like that during this time of the year. Is all of that, when you're really exerting yourself, shoveling snow, can it be a real problematic situation if you've got, say, heart conditions that are being dealt with? What would you say to that?
Absolutely, it can, and I'm so glad you brought it up. But yes, every year during winter time, we see an uptick of heart attack rate because of snow shoveling in those areas, the cold areas. And it's not just for those who have known pre-existing conditions, it's for everybody, because there are certain people who don't even know what their pre-existing conditions are because they haven't been to the physician in a long time. So, yes, snow shoveling is a risk factor for heart attack, particularly because it's a very high metabolic activity. And so for those who have pre-existing conditions or are unknown to what their health condition is, should avoid that.
All right, very good. Doctor, thank you very, very much for joining us on the program. We're going to get ready to wrap it up. That's Dr. Fahmi Farah on the line with us.